This video is sponsored by Skillshare. The first 1,000 people to sign up with the link in the description will get 1 month of free access to thousands of courses. Post Malone's come up is rather different. Although you've likely heard of his come to fame with White Iverson, a ton happened before then. Austin Post was born in New York and moved to Texas at a very young age. In 2013, at only 18, he dropped out of Tarrant County College with the intention of pursuing music. This is the same year he'd post the infamous Bob Dylan "Don't Think Twice It's Alright" cover, which now has amassed 13 million views. The first step that many take is the leap to LA. A risky one, but that's what Post chose to do as well. One of his friends, Jason Probst, was a Minecraft streamer who moved to LA to join a group and a house that dubbed themselves as Team Crafted, which included massive Minecraft YouTubers such as Sky Does Minecraft and Husky Mudkips. Post lived in that house for free and featured in a ton of their videos while trying to lodge himself into the music industry. But in March 2014, the group disbanded due to drama complications. Only a few months later, Post would meet Key and produce his first song, I Understand. Producing led to hopping on FKI's track, That's It, on January 16th. A few weeks later, on February 5th, Post Malone posted White Iverson, uploading it initially to SoundCloud. His connection to Key, which heavily pushed the song, would lead him to Wiz Khalifa, who was recorded jamming to the song only 4 days later. Wiz co-signed the track, which helped it gain the traction that it deserved. Even Mac Miller co-signed White Iverson as well. That year, he continued to roster on various festival lineups, like South by Southwest and various other festivals throughout the summer, which led him to hitting the big leagues and getting signed to Republic Records, only 6 months after tweeting the link to White Iverson. We all saw what panned out afterwards. The next year led to his feature on The Life of Pablo, a world tour with Justin Bieber, following his debut album at the end of the year. The point of this is to explain the extremely fast come up that Post Malone endured. A run like this is something that you see once in a decade. In just a year, he literally went from living in a closet in LA to touring with the biggest pop star in the world, Justin Bieber. But this 4-year non-stop run came to an abrupt end once he purchased his house in Utah, 600 miles away from his old home in Los Angeles. So why would such an artist want to step away from it all, right when he was in the literal heat of fame? Psychologist Donna Rockwell conducted a study on the impact of the rise of fame through being a celebrity, a phenomenology of fame. The study is conducted on 15 adults, who at some stage in their lives attained celebrity status. The structural theme of the 4 phases were represented as the following: a period of love and hate towards the experience, an addiction phase where behavior is directed solely towards the goal of remaining famous, an acceptance phase requiring a permanent change in everyday life routines, and finally an adaptation phase, where new behaviors are developed in response to life changes found in being famous. Participants describe this temporal aspect as unfolding from the first moment of being famous throughout the rest of the lifespan. The first phase of love and hate had the idea of enjoying parts of it, but hating parts of it as well, acting as the first reaction and a lead towards the next phase, addiction. The love portion can be seen as addicting and like a high. I'm sure you've seen this trait when viewing a come-up of your favorite artists. It's also displayed within lyricism. You can see the love-hate phase quite explicitly through Stoney, his debut album that was recorded in the first year and a half of fame, with songs that act as love for where he's gotten with Go Flex, No Option, and White Iverson, accompanied with strong downers like Fall Apart, Leave, and Feeling Whitney, with lyrics like Cars and Clothes Thought I Was Winning, You Know I Was Losing. Hit This Hard displays both sides, the self-reflection of falling into drug and alcohol usage, which is met with him going right back to the lifestyle within the same song. Beerbongs and Bentleys has been described as the Ouroboros of new money narcissism. It displays the obsession with flexing, partying, and banging groupies, which feeds to a growing paranoia that people around him only like him for those attributes. If any album in his discography displays the peak of his lifestyle, it's this one. Throughout the album, we see the goal of wanting to retain his fame and loathing in the new money, through ideas such as cars, jewelry, and women. He needed to prove that White Iverson wasn't a fluke. This theme is especially highlighted through tracks like Rockstar and Psycho. But even through the first track, Paranoid, he starts hinting at the theme of Hollywood's bleeding. starting the track with "Never Know When Someone Will Come and Try to Take My Life," which was based on how people were breaking into his old house, the one that he was long gone from. He talks about how the eyes are always on him, and he's beginning to struggle finding peace in newfound fame. The acceptance phase is defined as once the high or blinding of fame dissipates. It is displayed in no other than his 2019 album, Hollywood's Bleeding, which wholeheartedly imposes the theme of longing for change and the realization of the toxic nature that surrounds his Hollywood celebrity lifestyle. The attention becomes overwhelming, and his expectations, temptations, mistrust, and family concerns come to the fore. In this case, the celebrity resolves to accept fame, including its threatening phenomenal aspects. It's really not all that one would expect. Hollywood's Bleeding is definitely his most introspective album. You can even see throughout the initial album cover, we're now spewed with darkness rather than the bright yellow Beerbongs and Bentleys. It looks at themes such as distrust, which correlate quite tightly with the acceptance phase. Throughout the phases of fame, it was also reported that depersonalization was felt, or an entitization process, in which participants reported feeling like a thing rather than a person or unique character. They lose their true selves among the reality that they now live in, hence where the infamous phrase of "it's lonely at the top" comes from, which is also the same aura that we receive from Post Malone. The adaptation phase is the response to life changes, and looking back to what has happened with the trained eye. You can meticulously see the transition into the state of bliss of this phase. In 2019, he was interviewed by Apple Music's Zane Lowe shortly after moving to Utah, stating that they'll use every last piece they can get out of you to better themselves. Shortly after, in his 2021 interview with Joe Rogan, he explains that he finds inspiration out where he's at now. He once again feels insignificant to the mountainous range around him. He can finally accept everything around him. He's relaxed and he's at peace. He once again reflects back to LA, where there was always something going on, affecting his creative process, and that there are so many people looking to drain you. Quoted from the research paper, adaptation can include reclusiveness, which gives a rise in turn to mistrust and isolation. With both the Joe Rogan and Zane Lowe interview, you can see the beginning impact of separating himself to Utah. While in a recent interview, 2 years after the relocation, you can see the implications that the move has had on him. He spoke to Billboard with the perspective of looking inwards for inspiration, making music in his off-the-grid home studio, for once, naturally. In various interviews over the last 2 years, he's explained that he no longer wants to make hits, but rather the music he really loves to make. By moving to Utah, he's able to go back to his roots of literally gaming, spending time with his family, and making music. I think that we're in store for Post Malone's most authentic album, the one that he would have made if he had the creative control and money to do so in his late teens. To be honest, I love Stoney. I followed Post Malone quite heavily since White Iverson, and saw him live in 2018, but through Beerbongs and Bentleys, I seemed to lose sense of him. It just didn't feel the same emotionally as the previous album. To me, Hollywood's Bleeding held a similar authenticity to Stoney, but to finally hear he's relocated to somewhere where he can now breathe is wonderful. I have nothing but high hopes for his next album. The absence of authenticity definitely made sense according to this article. It's like how celebrities started feeling like a thing, rather than a person of unique character. This is because once you reach Hollywood, you're imposed by a whirlwind of ideologies that aren't yours. You can say what you want about his state-of-the-art production or autotune assisting him, but I believe that he displays a raw emotion that many artists struggle to find, and rather lose through the stages of fame. As an 18-year-old struck by fame, it's quite impressive that he never fell off, and throughout the temptation of his career, he clearly never really lost his way. I wish nothing but the best for Post Malone, and I think his new album will really bring the best out of him. The limelight saw him as missing by moving to Utah, but in reality, he's never been closer to finding himself. Now I want to hear from you guys. What's your favorite Post Malone track? Also, do you have high hopes for his next album? Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, guys.